What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Bryant, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a former head coach with a tremendous basketball mind. He's an excellent talent evaluator and an excellent recruiter as well. A tremendous teacher, professional, a great communicator, and he's a Long Island, New York native, Joyner. Now, a little bit about Jay before we go on. Jay ended up had a very good career. He always talks about he won at every level, won on the high school level. Then he goes to South Carolina State, has a good career, very good career at South Carolina State, where they ended up winning the conference tournament, getting to the NCAA tournament in 1996. And then, shortly after playing at South Carolina State, he goes and plays professionally, wins another championship on that level over in Spain before, stopped playing and getting injured. Had to come back and then his firstborn child was on the way. So I stopped playing and he came home and then he started coaching. And that's what he's probably always had that in his blood. He was an assistant coach at Centennial High School. And then from there, he goes and works alongside his former college coach in South Alexander, Tennessee State. He worked as a strength coach, assistant strength coach there, and worked on the administrative side. But then after the 2005 season, he had a chance to go and coach at Columbia State Community College as an assistant coach. And then from there, he goes to Rutgers University, where he's the director of player development for 2 years. And that was when I first met Jay up at Rutgers University. And then 2008, 2009, he has a chance to go to Cumberland University as an assistant. And then he takes over the program at Columbia State Community College for 3 years. And then a twist and turn, now in his last year there, his head coach and former boss, early in his career, now is working for him. So that was kind of, a change a little bit. And then, a few months later, his former head coach gets the job at North Carolina A&T. Of course, he's going to bring one of his better players, the guy that actually had worked for him before. And Sal worked for him. He coaches at North Carolina A&T as an associate head coach. And then during that 15-16 season, and actually in that first year, they got to A&T. They ended up going to the NCAA tournament. They won the championship. They go to the tournament. And then, in the 15-16 season, late in January 16, he becomes the head coach, the interim head coach, and then permanently taking over in the next season, 2016 to 2020, where he was the head coach at North Carolina A&T. I want to welcome to the show, Coach Jay Joyner.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thanks for having me.
Look, man, we're gonna get right into it because I know there's a lot of things you like to talk about. A lot of the success you've had, being a college coach. So the first thing, man, I like asking guests to come on to the show is like there's no handbook to being a college coach. Like every college player look at the coaching side and say, "Oh man, you guys don't do a whole lot." They don't realize it until they come on the other side. Former players, anyway, they think it's real easy. And you had a chance to work for your guy you played for, so starting off. But there's no handbook to being a college coach. Like, tell me about the first day, the first week, first month after things are done with human resources or orientation, especially when no one gives you direction. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. Like, it's all the same. Talk about that, man.
Yeah. Coach, are you referring to when I first got into the business or when I first took over?
Talk about first when you got into the business or what your experiences, because it could have been different at each stop. So talk about that.
Well, after I finished playing basketball over in Spain, I knew, I still wanted to be around the game of basketball. I started playing at, 9 years old, and I was over in Spain, and I knew my knees were, going bad on me, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I said to myself, well, what's next for me? And I reached out to, my college coach, and he said, you know, as long as you got your degree, I'm going to help you. And in 2003, Coach Alexander, kept his word and, um, added me to his, new staff. Um, you know, the first couple of days were kind of overwhelming because, you're excited, but you also don't want to mess up. When people give you an opportunity, I truly believe in life, you have to be prepared. You have to be ready from day one. And so I had a lot of anxiety early on, but, I was really a sponge. I've tried to be a sponge my entire career as a college coach. I think when you talk too much, you miss, you know, important messages, So, you know, um, for 2 years, I just literally soaked everything in. I was on probably the best staff I've ever been around, 2003 to 2005, because everyone on the staff worked together, and they were just trying to teach everyone, including myself. So for 2 years, man, it was exciting. We didn't win a lot, but I learned a lot, So I'm forever grateful for Coach Alexander giving me that start at Tennessee State.
Awesome, man. I'm glad it's a teaching moment too. So, and when you said something, so I hope these young guys listen. When you jumped in, like working well with the staff is huge, and like you said, you learned. You was a sponge, because a lot of people come in thinking they already have the answers, and you like, nah, man, I need to listen to these guys that already have been doing this. So that's actually awesome. Like recruited, we all know that's the lifeline of college athletics. Like if you got to get good players, you have to get good students. And it's not always, everybody always, when you like, oh man, you got to be a good student. It's not always, you don't have to get all A's. I mean, like everyone is not going to always be an A student, but good players, good students, good people in order to be successful. I think those three things go together. They line up together to have success. Like, talk about your best and maybe your worst recruiting stories over the years. Like, do you remember anything? And I'm going to throw this in here because you've been a head coach. Do you recall anything where an assistant did a great or horrible job? You just knew it? We don't have to say names, but like it's the thing that stood out with that as well.
Yeah, well, in regards to, recruiting, from day one, Coach, I never wanted to be labeled as a recruiter. Okay. So I worked tirelessly just watching film, continuing to be a sponge. Okay. And I take great pride in being a well-rounded coach. I could grab the clipboard and draw X's and O's, and I can go out there and recruit as well, because I just knew at some point, I was going to get an opportunity to lead a program. And, recruiting to me is about cultivating relationships, Coach. I mean, you got to be able to be a people person. Okay? If you can't relate to people, it's going to kind of be hard to convince somebody to come to your university, okay? Because there's a disconnect, you're not relatable. But as far as recruiting stories, I remember, recruiting this heck of a basketball player out in Arizona, okay, when I was at Columbia State Community College, okay, as a head coach, okay, not the assistant, but the 3-year stint when I was a head coach. Coach, when I tell you this young man was the best kid I've ever laid eyes on, okay, I'm getting excited, okay, the mom's getting excited, the kid comes on campus, says he's coming, so now I'm in paradise, okay? Coach, 3 weeks later, the kid starts to get homesick. He wants to, go back home. He didn't know, Tennessee was this far from Arizona. I'm like, yo, dude, you didn't look at the map? Like, what are we really talking about right now? I got your back, man. I mean, you're going to be in good shape. And make a long story short, it didn't work out. And, for a little while I was devastated because I'm saying, man, this dude could have took me to the promised land. There's no question in the world I would have won a championship that year, but it wasn't, meant to be. And hey, that's probably, the funniest recruiting story that I have. But as far as assistance goes, I've had I was pretty fortunate working with, some good guys. Okay. So I don't really have any horror stories because I'm big on discipline. I'm big on accountability. Okay. So, I run a tight ship. So my assistants pretty much knew what to expect from me. And I think when you run a loose ship, um, you have to, reel guys back in often because, you haven't really set your boundaries for your program, So I don't have any horror stories. I just, for every assistant that I give opportunity, you know, to, they earned it, and life goes on, man.
Also, that's great stuff, man. I like that. Like, like you said, laying the foundation, discipline. They understood what you wanted, so that's a plus. You're named the head coach, at Columbia State, and then I'm gonna get two different scenarios because you named the head coach at Columbia State, you named the head coach at A&T. So try to get both sides of it. Like, you excited to have your own program. Like, can you talk about what happens over the next few months? Because you were already at A&T, you got the job, but once you become whether it's the interim or the head coach, but talk about when you were at Columbia State, you got the keys now. It's you. What happens over those next? We always say like, what happens over the next 100 days, but what happens over those next 100 days? So,
Yeah. Well, outside before I get into that, outside of Coach Alexander giving me an unbelievable opportunity to get into business, I would like to thank Louis Connor, who was the athletic director at Columbia State. Um, he gave me an opportunity to lead my first program. Okay, and I'm forever grateful to Louis Connor. He's no longer the athletic director at Columbia State. He's retired now, well deserved. But that first experience at Columbia State really developed who I am as a coach right now, because we didn't have a heck of a lot of resources, right? But I take the approach in every job, coach. Um, there's no such thing as a bad job. Okay. It's all about your mental approach each day. Okay. What you do every day religiously, okay, is ultimately gonna shape and mold your program. Okay. And a lot of people say the first 100 days. Okay. I approach the first 30 days. Okay. Because, you know, let's say we take the approach for the first 100 days. Well, if you're not doing what you really need to do, you've already put yourself behind the eight ball. If you've invested 100 days, let's say out of 100, 65 were not very good days. Okay, now you're in the hole. Okay, you know, I read a lot of books in the past. Again, just being a sponge, listening to different head coaches, different assistant coaches, how they run their programs. Um, Leading for me wasn't very difficult. I've always had a vision to running my own program, and the first 30 days, it was simple. Because I had assistant coach and my brother that many people don't know about. I true story. I got on the phone with him and I said, "Hey, look, I just took over at Columbia State as the head coach, man. What do you think about coming down and helping out?" Coach, within 7 days, my brother packed his car out on Long Island, drove all the way down to Tennessee. Okay, and he really helped me get the job done. So working with my brother, every day was really, really easy. But day one, okay, you have to have a vision, coach. You have to have a vision, okay? And you have to assess where the program is, okay? And after you do that, I mean, I think things start to fall in place as long as you're consistent, okay? I knew I wanted to get Columbia State back to the national stage, so to speak. And, we had to hit the ground running, my brother and I, to go out and get talent. And to his credit, to my credit, we're able to do that. Once we got kids physically on campus, I'm big on skill development, okay? You can't really put a price tag on skill development. And skill development is not just doing drills, okay? Skill development is making sure guys are getting, a high basketball IQ, getting physically stronger, okay? That's all, to me, under the umbrella of development, okay? You have personal trainers today that, they go drill crazy, right? And, that's good, right? But you still have to be able to transfer some of the skills that you're doing in your, individual workouts to, the game. And depending on your philosophy, okay, I might not want my point guards doing, the James Harden, triple step back into, jump shots. So, it comes down to philosophy. But, you know, because I'm big on discipline and accountability, sometimes I'm misunderstood as, a drill sergeant or old school coach. And, I've just seen a lot of success out of it. Okay. And I'm, really not going to waver to that. But you do have to adapt to the plays that you are coaching. Okay. And, Columbia State was really easy. We ended up, when I say easy, once you lay the concrete, the foundation, and guys buy in, okay, your program starts to take off and run itself. So after 3 successful seasons at Columbia State, I was fortunate to go with Coach Alexander to North Carolina A&T. Now, North Carolina A&T was a little different because it was bittersweet. All right. Anytime you have your mentor, okay, go through what he went through, losing his mom and his wife within a 4-month span. I mean, that's kind of tough on anyone, okay? And to have to sit there and watch him go through that. I mean, he wasn't the same coach that I played for. He wasn't the same coach that, I worked with, okay, in the trenches. It just had taken a toll on him. And then when he abruptly resigned, we had just gotten off the road from Delaware State, coach. And, I'm walking up the stairs in my house defeated, because if you've been in the business long enough, when the writing's on the wall, okay? and I promise you, I'm defeated. I'm walking up my stairs in my house, and my wife is asking me, okay, what's wrong? I said, nah, I just need to sleep this one off, man. It's not good. It's not good. And coach, when I woke up that afternoon, Coach Alexander resigned, okay? They brought me in the office, and I see Coach Alexander very emotional, and I know this is not good. Matter of fact, I had my hood on, coach. I mean, and it wasn't even raining. I had my hood on. I'm like, hold on, man. I know I'm not going to be the guy that's going to fall on the sword, man. Like, I know things are bad, but goodness gracious. I mean, this is going to happen to me. But, the athletic director told me, effective immediately, you're going to be taking over for men's basketball. What do you think? I immediately turned to Coach Alexander, right, because I didn't have an opportunity to even run it by him, okay? I said, Coach, what do you think? He's like, well, you deserve it. It's going to be all right. I mean, you do what you got to do. And even after Coach Alexander giving me his blessing in that situation, it was still bittersweet because, yes, you prepare all your life to become a head coach. Not many assistant coaches that I've interacted with did not want to be a head coach. So, I mean, like I said, coach, you prepare your whole career for that opportunity. And it was just bittersweet. We take over. We're on a 9-game losing streak. We win the first game. I mean, which is purely luck, coach. You know how sometimes the ball bounces your way. The kid misses a shot for Savannah State. We get the rebound. We win. Okay. If the ball goes in the basket, okay, we lose. Okay. So that's how, close it was winning your first game. And instantly the kids started to buy in. Okay. Now, for the coaches that have never experienced this, when you're promoted from an assistant coach to a head coach, all right, it gets very tricky, okay, because your players have seen you, okay, operate and function as an assistant coach, okay. Well, when you move over to that chair as head coach, all right, you have to lead differently, okay, and the players have to respond differently to you, okay. Um, Majority of staffs, the assistants are to make sure they are connected with the players every day in all aspects, of life. Okay. And when you get really that close to your players, right, and you elevate it, and now you got to get them to do things that they don't necessarily want to do, but they have to do in order for us to be successful. I call it in basketball allergic reaction. Okay. Because, what they were able to get away with the previous coach, you're different. I don't care if he's your mentor or not, you're different. Okay. You can have, the same sort of philosophy from a defensive end or offensive end, but from a discipline standpoint, I knew it was going to be ugly initially. So during the interim season, okay, we were 2-6 when I took over in conference, and we ended up going 5-3. Okay, so I'm forever grateful to those young men that bought in during my interim season. But boy, coach, did it get rough my first full season, all right? And I'm gonna pause before we even talk about that. But after the season, okay, I had to assess the program. I had to, really look at where we are academically and, from a basketball standpoint. Many people don't realize this, but I took over a program that was on academic probation. Okay. So I had my work cut out for me, but, if you're given an opportunity in life, what are you going to turn it down and say it's too hard? Of course not. That's not in my DNA. I'm a very driven person. Okay. And, sometimes, I bite off more than I can chew, so to speak. The young players say pause. Okay. But you know how it goes, coach. I mean, like, you shoot for the stars. That's how I was raised. You shoot for the stars and you try to achieve it. And, so when I took over at North Carolina A&T in regards to the deck of cards stacked against me, I just had to roll my sleeves up, and within that first 30 days, what's the culture now? Okay. What do I want the culture to look like? Okay. I gave myself lofty goals. I want to be the top of the league. Okay. Talent wise. Okay. And program wise. Okay. All across the board within 3 years. And, I was able to do that with just working every single day, keeping my head down, working, tirelessly. And, you have to get your staff on the same page. And I think if they see the coach working tirelessly, everybody else falls in line, um, from academic goals, from championship, goals. You know, I graduated over 90% of my players, coach, and I'm very proud to say that, okay? Because as, a young Black man, all right, I never want Black men to feel like I pimped them, okay? And there's a lot of that going on in the business, okay? When you start looking at the graduation rate, right? Um, and for whatever reason that may be, I just couldn't be in that category, okay? Because, coaching to me is about 12, 15 years from now, right? Whether or not I'm still interacting with my players, okay? the first 5 years is probably unrealistic because, you know, coach, if you're not accustomed to discipline and being held accountable, you're really not going to like Coach Joyner initially because he's making you do something that you really don't want to do. Okay, so rule of thumb, I usually give guys, 6, 7 years after they're done playing with me before, they start to reach out. And it's a great feeling. It's satisfying to communicate with your former players, and it has nothing to do with basketball. It has nothing to do with scoring a point, So that really, for me, Coach, was, what it was like taking over those two programs.
Awesome, man. I'm like, again, you dropped a lot of knowledge or nuggets that people need to hear. And I like the 30 days more so than 100 days that everybody's saying. I thought that was really good stuff. We'll go into scouting reports because that's another thing that people don't realize how much time is invested. I guess people think you just roll out the ball or whatever, but when you're an assistant and you used to break up the scouts, or when you were a head coach, you broke it up the way you wanted to. Like now, because everyone, you can tell who scout it is on the sideline. The guy who's the most invested, he jumping up and down, he yelling, he's screaming. But guys watch 6, 7, 8 games of film. I mean, they're making sure they prepare the team as best as possible to be successful. A lot of times we get caught up as assistants trying to do as much as we can. We got to give it to the head coach. He's going to look at things. But we got to make sure that as assistant coaches, you can express it, or you got to be able to communicate it to the players so they can understand, so they can be successful. You can't give them too much because we know they got a lot of stuff going on as well. They got classes, things that going on in their life. If you give them too much, they're going to forget it. You got to give them just enough, figure it out. Then you got where you're giving stuff to them. You've been on both sides. You're telling the head coach, man, this guy's struggling shooting the ball. He's 2 for his last 30. And then what does he do? He makes his first 2 threes in the game. Whether you're a head coach or an assistant coach, the head coach is turning to the assistant saying, you told me he couldn't shoot. Coach, I never said that. So terminology is key too when you're expressing it, not only to the head coach, but to the players. Like now everyone, instead of saying, well, he doesn't shoot the ball well, this and that, you got to say he's a capable shooter. So talk about your best and worst scouting reports that you may have had over the years. And is it anything that jumped out from you as a head coach that, you want the assistant didn't do it well, or he did it great, but you also expressed to him like, no, this is how I want it, because you're laying out what you want from a scout report for your assistants so they can be able to express it to the team. Talk about that, scout reports.
Right. Well, as an assistant, I do have, it's a funny story, but it's a story where I got chewed out, okay? And it just stands out just like it was yesterday, right? We're playing Hampton University at home, okay, conference game. And I forget the young man's name, Coach, but statistically speaking, Coach, he was not a shooter, okay? Statistically speaking, on film-wise, okay, he was not a shooter, okay? And when you have statistics on your side, and when you have film that he's only hit 1 3 the entire season, okay? To say that he's a capable shooter, to say that, he's a great shooter, he was a great shooter in high school, don't let him get hot today, would be a stretch. Like, okay, there's different levels, all right? This is college we're talking about. And in college, he hasn't proven to be a shooter, and we're at home, and on the scout report clearly states that, he's a driver, right? He's trying to get to the rim because on film, that's what he was trying to do. Coach, when I say he lit us up from the 3, the head coach, Coach Alexander, calls the timeout. He's looking at me. He's like, listen, God damn it, you need to make sure that, your scouts are more accurate, right? Because you said he couldn't shoot. He's already hit 5 threes. I mean, what are you talking about? He can't shoot. Can you hit 5 threes? I said, Coach, I mean, it's not about me, man, but I get your point, man. Like, statistically speaking, film wise, okay, Coach, he's having a heck of a night, right? So from that point on, okay, I've taken the approach and implemented a rule when I became a head coach. If he hits 1 3, we're gonna treat him tonight as a shooter. Okay? If he hits 1 3, we're gonna treat him tonight as if he's a knockdown shooter. Okay, we're not gonna get it twisted. We're not gonna give anybody career nights. Okay, and knocking down open shots. We're not gonna disrespect anybody. You know, but getting back to from an assistant coach standpoint, doing scouting reports, I think it all comes down to who you're working with, okay? Because each head coach is different, okay? I worked for, when I was responsible for scouting games, I worked for Coach Alexander at North Carolina A&T. And Coach Alexander wanted paragraphs on each kid. And I'm up to like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, typing on my laptop, Coach trying to figure out what else to say about the kid because I'm like maybe 2 sentences short from a paragraph. And, I would hand in, Coach, I'm talking about booklets, not like 2 or 3 or 4 pages scout reports. I'm talking about, it was so thick, Coach, that I'm like, Coach Alexander wanted, he wanted the blue ribbon, he wanted everything. Coach Alexander was old school. So I'm, but because I'm an assistant at the time, I have to do what, the head coach wants. He was big on film, okay? And we watched a lot of film tirelessly. And I agree with you. People think we just show up at the game as coaches and we just play basketball for 40 minutes. Okay, we've told our players how to close out. We've told our players how to jump to the ball. We've told our players weak side help has to be on point. Okay, we told our players, how to contain the basketball. We told our players how to cover ball screens. But on game night, Coach, it doesn't always go according to plan. Okay, and that's usually why coaches start screaming and yelling because we've spent hours and hours and hours to prepare for the game. And it's a little frustrating as coaches when the players aren't doing what we worked on, okay? You hear the fans like, coach doesn't know how to attack a 2-3 zone. It's not that I don't know how to attack a 2-3 zone. It's, and publicly, you can't ever put down your players, Coach, because that's just not cool. Okay. I mean, you're the adult, you take responsibility. Okay. Let the fans say what they want to say. But good and well, Coach, you told that kid to flash to the elbow and he's standing on the lower block, looking like, what am I supposed to do? That type, situation definitely frustrates coaches. But as a head coach, because I worked for Coach Alexander, I was I kind of went in the total opposite direction, okay? Because of kids today, their attention to detail is very short, okay? And that's not disrespecting anybody, that's just calling a spade, okay? When I played for Coach Alexander, okay, we would be in there for 2 hours watching film back in the 90s, okay? By the time film was over, he was getting upset because guys was falling out, sleep on the wall. I mean, it's kind of tough to, and back then, Coach, we didn't have no AC in the film room. So it's hot as all get out. And for 2 hours, Coach, I mean, like, I don't know how you would have, stayed awake, but, it was tough for me to, stay on point for 2 hours. So ultimately, when I took over as the head coach, I laid all that on the table. I took everything in consideration. All right. Jay, what about when you were a player? Okay. How long did you really stay focused and pay attention to what the coaches were saying in film? All right. So I implemented a rule. We would not be in film, okay, no more than 30 minutes. Okay. I want the assistant coaches to create an edit and show what we need to see, the meat and potatoes. I don't need to see every offensive set that Old Dominion runs, okay? I don't need to see, okay, every baseline out of bounds. I just need the meat and potatoes. I need, all right, there are 3 to 4 top sets that they run, man offense, and I need to see their 3 to 4 top sets zone, okay, zone sets. And if they're a team that's scoring 8 to 10 points a game, baseline out of bounds or sideline out of bounds, okay, that's important. Only put the meat and potatoes on the scout report, okay? And to piggyback and circle back what you were saying, Coach, yes, I mean, you do watch 5 to 6 games, okay, on every opponent. Okay, as a head coach, I know I watched every game. Okay, I watched every game. Okay, and I think if you're prepared that way, you won't miss, right? Because teams, you know just as well as I know, teams are on losing streaks, they're on winning streaks. So I don't want to just see when they're winning games. I want to see when they're losing games too. I want to see what we're truly going up against. So I watched every game, and we would watch film maybe three consecutive days before the game. But once we got into conference play, because you play, you know, that Saturday, you know, that Monday, okay, you have a short turnaround. So I didn't overload my plays in regards to film, okay? And, you know, I found, success in it. And what worked for me might not work for the next coach, but, you know, to each his own.
That's great stuff. I'm just listening, man. Like that, a lot of the good stuff, like you said, you learned. A lot of times, some of the best things you learn is, you know, what not to do or how you want to do something different. You know, you talked about being in the film room for 2 hours, and we know, like you said it, for politically correct, kids today attention span is like a TV commercial. It's short. Like it's just hard for those guys to sit there, like you said. You know, when I was playing, I could sit in there, and I'm gonna struggle. You definitely gonna struggle, but you just did it because you did it. Today, like kids, they just can't sit there that long, and like, you know, they're restless. They're restless after a few minutes, man. It happens.
And let me add something else, Coach.
Yeah.
In regards to the scouting, I think when you start talking about your psyche, your psyche, um, in my humble opinion, if you spend too much time talking about the opponent, it could be counterproductive. Okay. Okay. And I just never really wanted to, flirt with the players not believing in themselves. Because think about it, Coach, if you're talking about your opponent so much as a kid, eventually they're going to say, well, man, Coach don't think we can beat these guys, blah, 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 and this and that. So, I would focus on the important things, make sure the team was prepared, but ultimately make sure we were prepared, okay? If we weren't playing that well, or make sure that, we shoot more free throws, make sure, we're working on our defense, make sure we're working on, just skill development. I just took a lot of great pride in focusing on my program and not so much worrying about the opponent, to a point where it's one thing to be prepared, but then I think some coaches flirt with overkill, okay? And when you start flirting with overkill, okay, you don't even know you're sending the wrong message to your players, right? Because you're hyping, okay, the opponent up so much that now the kids start looking at you, and I'm not saying all, but some of them start looking at you like you don't believe in them, okay? And that could be counterproductive. So, I mean, I think you just have to, have a happy balance, okay? Make sure you're prepared every game, but also make sure you're focusing on your team, strengths and weakness.
Awesome stuff, man. What's the biggest challenge, man, you think you experienced since you came into college coaching?
Opportunity. Okay. Opportunity. Because you can't tell me, Coach, if you would have received the opportunity at UCLA, okay, you wouldn't be further, you wouldn't have advanced faster than you did in your 16 years as an assistant coach. Okay. Um, and it applies to life, not just sports. Okay. It's all about opportunity or lack of opportunity. Okay. I just so happen to get my opportunities at a community college and a HBCU. Okay. My knowledge for the game is no different than assistant coach or a head coach at a PWI. It's just, unfortunately, it comes down to lack of opportunity. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that feels this way, but, you know, if I was, coaching at, you know, Iowa or Clemson, okay, I would be the same coach with the same vision, with the same accountability, with the same discipline. Okay. So sports, just like life, comes down to opportunity.
So true, man. That's an awesome answer right there. Um, do you ever find, and you kind of threw this word out there earlier, but do you ever find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? What are they?
Um, Probably that I don't have a big heart, okay, because I'm so big on discipline and accountability. And once I set goals for myself or the program, okay, I just focus on the mark, okay. And if you're not going in that direction, you are going to feel like, man, coach is tripping. No, I'm not tripping. I'm trying to get everyone to the finish line. Okay. And until the job is complete, then we all have work to do. Okay. And everyone handles stress differently, coach. The pressure of winning and winning now. I mean, there used to be a time in the business where you were given a honeymoon. I never received a honeymoon. All right. When I took over at A&T. Okay. Never. All right. Um, but sports today is all about win now. And, I've been fortunate every program that I've touched, coach, I've turned around. So, I take great pride in that. I know what the process looks like. But the biggest thing I would say, when it comes to people misunderstanding, Jay Joyner would be that I do have a big heart, but, a lot of times when you're grinding and you're in the trenches, you really, um, I don't think it's appropriate, right, to show it while you're grinding, okay, because it's not playtime. And pretty much, I guess that's why I'm labeled as an old school coach. I'm only 46, coach. I mean, I'm not a dinosaur yet, but that would probably be the biggest thing.
Great answer again, man. Great answer. Listen, we know that basketball, or the basketball court anyway, we're educators in this business. That's what we are. Like, I mean, you always teaching, whether it's on the court, which is, we always say it's like our classroom, or you teaching life lessons. Like, what do you try to teach your players besides basketball?
Well, one, to get the education, right? And I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, okay? But, coaching at HBCU, okay, the chances of them going to the league was slim, okay? When you look at the conference itself, okay, outside of, Kyle Quinn, when was the last time somebody went to the NBA from, the MEAC? It's been a while. So I think as a responsible leader, okay, you have to, keep it real with them, okay? And I would constantly tell them in the locker room, guys, listen, knock it off. We don't have any NBA pros in this locker room, right? So we have to play the right way. We have to play together. But, when you hear the term, it's bigger than basketball, it's bigger than basketball. Um, a lot of coaches say that, okay? But, are you living that way behind the scenes? Okay, it sounds catchy, it sounds good to put on Twitter, your IG, Facebook, or whatever social media. I just think making sure these young men graduate is key. Okay, and when you hold them accountable, coach, and I can't stress accountability enough. Okay, when you hold them accountable, you force them to start to go through some adverse situations, okay? And ultimately, those adverse situations mold them and shape them into being, young men, all right? Because my job ultimately is to make sure they acquire the skills and knowledge to be successful men in life, right? Not just basketball. And lesson one, as soon as they enter, my program, guys, I'm big on discipline. I'm gonna hold you accountable. But I promise you, right? If you figure it out, what I'm trying to do, okay, you're gonna thank me 15 years from now. So, and when I say, you know, I probably use the word accountability more than you've ever heard another coach use, okay? Because I'm just big on it and I don't, waver from it, But you can't sustain success without accountability. You can't, And I just try to teach my guys a lot of, life lessons, okay? I don't get into, color of, each player's skin and all that stuff. I try to treat, everybody, fair because, in sports, everyone's not equal, okay? The Super Bowl last night, Tom Brady's Tom Brady, okay? But as a coach, you still got to treat everybody fair, okay? And this generation, I call them the trophy generation, okay? Because everybody received a trophy when they went to AAU tournaments. And, I missed that, okay? I didn't come up during that era. So I don't comprehend. I mean, no, you shouldn't be happy when you lose. No, you shouldn't receive a trophy when you lose, okay? And I think that poses a challenge to head coaches when these young men arrive on campus, especially for the coaches that are really trying to get them on track and teach them the right way to play basketball.
No, but great stuff, man. Man, I'm writing down stuff as you're talking, and so like it's some really good stuff. When the people get a chance to see this, I'm sure they're gonna love it as well. We talk about this word is used a lot in basketball, sacrifice, because I don't think people understand it. And you've been around it long enough. They hear you a college basketball coach and they be like, oh, so what are you doing your downtime? Like downtime? There's no downtime for us as college coaches. Like 355, 360 days out in the year, you're working. And that's what people don't understand. Like when you say, man, we're going on vacation, like, yeah, you're going on vacation with your family, but you always constantly that phone, because you're looking to set up that next unofficial visit or something could be happening back at campus. Like anything could be going on when you're a college coach. There's no, you like, man, there's no days off really. It's not. That's something you signed up for. You love it. Like, but talk about what did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success?
Well, just as well as I know, Coach, having a family could be, very challenging. Okay. You miss birthdays. Okay. I mean, you miss just precious moments that you'll never get back because while you're grinding, they're aging. Okay. Life outside your bubble of coaching, okay, is still going on. Okay. When I first got into business, had it not been for, my wife sacrificing, relocating and finding another job, I mean, I wouldn't, have been able to coach for 18 years, so I'm forever grateful to her, sacrificing what she sacrificed and holding the family down because, yeah, you're dad, but dad is never home, okay? And, it gets, real tricky when you try to manage time, okay? But when I became a head coach, I know I'm a very driven person, okay? And I wouldn't label myself as a workaholic, but I'm driven. And when I say there's a difference, coach, being driven and a workaholic, excuse me, there is a difference. A workaholic only sees work, okay, and just works. I'm going to work my tail off and get the job done, and we're going to be successful. And then I'm going to go enjoy, some time and, spent with my family. Okay. I had a rule when I go on vacation, okay, it better be emergency. If you're calling me about a small fire, okay, we're going to have huge problems when I get back. Okay. Because you're talking about 5, 6 days, and I wouldn't go 7, 8, 5, 6 for me was the max, because I just didn't want, to get that one phone call that this happened and it's going to ruin your vacation anyway. So, rule of thumb, 5 to 6 days. I hit the reset button after the season ended, spend, time with the family, um, and really get back to work. Because if you're not working, I mean, your craft is starting to slip. Okay. And that's just really how it works. I mean, if you're not constantly getting better, coach, I mean, you're losing your edge in coaching. Okay. Um, Everyone's on social media. Okay. I was a very stubborn coach. Right? I'm like, listen, I'm not going to self promote Jay Joyner. Okay. Jay Joyner is old school. I'm just going to grind it out. My body will work, will speak for itself. And that's that. But the world says otherwise. I mean, here I am, talking to you, and just really trying to reinvent Jay Joyner.
And I mean, hey, and I like that self-promotion, non-self-promotion thing. That's the biggest thing. I like selfless people. So that's why I like bringing people on the show who's selfless. Um and so, like, yeah, would you saying that just helps out so much. I think it becomes big, and that we'll address that later on down the road as we go on with this interview. But you've been around basketball for a long time. You said 18 years. And I like asking this question because it's probably more of an entertaining one. Uh, and I say, like, what is the strangest, maybe the weirdest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court? And once again, we don't name names. We don't have to. But it's something you've seen and it was like, can you really believe this guy did this? Like, or something that was strange or weird and you just could not believe.
Probably the strangest moment in coaching, um, I would have to go back to my JUCO days at Columbia State. All right. I walk in the gym, and I'm saying to myself, okay, where's such and such? Well, everybody says they don't know. So I tell my brother, hey, go find such and such, man. My brother comes back after 30 minutes. Now I'm still running practice, right? Because the beauty about JUCO, head coaches do everything. The assistant coaches help, but ultimately you're responsible for doing everything. You're not on the D1 level where you have 4 or 5, grown men that you supervise that are, responsible for things that you assign to them. So after 30 minutes, my brother comes back. He says, Coach, I can't find him. Next day, right? I said, where's such and such? Still not at practice, coach. So I said, listen, okay. I told my brother, do not come back in this gym until you find such and such. Okay. He's somewhere. The kids say he's in Columbia, so we need to find him. All right. Because ultimately we're responsible for him. Okay. We got to make sure he's good. Coach, the young man is in the library. Right. I tell my brother, hey, listen, put such and such on the phone. I need to talk to him ASAP. I told the players in practice, hey, you guys get a drink. Go ahead and wash out, man, because it's going to be a minute. Just go ahead and wash out, come back, hit free throws. I said, such and such, where on earth are you? Coach, I'm in the library. Yeah, I've been informed that you're in the library. All right, so I get that. But why are you in the library during practice? Well, Coach, you got this thing twisted. I'm here to get my education first. Basketball comes second. I said, son, listen to me. And I'm saying it because I'm laughing, because I can't believe the response that he gave. I said, son, look, I need you to come to my office, all right, within the next hour, because you and I have to talk, okay? He comes in, coach, he comes in with his shirt off, right? And I'm like, such and such, why do you have your shirt off? Yo, coach, I'm about that life, coach. I'm like, okay, listen, son, I don't know what life you're talking about, but have a seat and put your shirt on. So he puts his shirt on. I said, son, I tried to work with you, okay? It's just not gonna work out. And I told my brother that evening, make sure you buy him a bus ticket, and we sent him home. I'm not going to disclose, where we sent him back to, but, we sent him home, and that was probably the strangest interaction I had with a player in, my coaching tenure.
Oh, yeah, that I had to pause a little bit on that. That was that's a little different. But like I'm kind of glad you said that. And I'll say it, that's what when you recruit kids, that's interesting you said that. And you're like, yo, you're a student athlete, right? And I work for a guy who used to he would remind kids of this, because he would say, yeah, I preach academics. I want you to get your degree, because I want you guys to understand this too. You're at this university because of athletics. So as much as I preach, you're a student first and you're an athlete second. You got to be in this playing basketball. You're going to be playing to get your degree. It's not you going to be a student and then play. So I just remember that, like, that's kids, they know that's when he tried to switch. And that's usually every kid doesn't think that way, but you may find one every 5-10 years that think like that, man. No, man, you're here to play basketball and to get a degree. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. But I used to hear a coach I worked for, he used to say that. You got to remember why you're here or how you got here. Not, you're here to get a degree, but you're here because of what you do on the court as well. So that's kind of interesting that young man had how he thought.
But coach,
go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. But coach, I think when individuals confuse that too, we also have to, take a look at what the adults have been promoting for a very, very long time.
Correct.
Okay. Because just as well as I know, you can graduate 100% of your players, okay, have a 3.8 GPA as a team, and go 0-15, okay, 2 consecutive years, and you're gone, okay?
Yep.
You're gone, and you're gonna get the generic response. We appreciate coaches' contributions to the program, and we wish him well in his future endeavors. That's what you're gonna get, So make no mistake about it. College coaches, pay their mortgages with their salaries, okay? They feed their families with their salaries, all right? So yes, you do have to balance both of them, but seriously, don't get it confused, okay, why you're there, okay? Your basketball ability, okay, allowed you to obtain a scholarship to attend this university, okay? Without that basketball scholarship, okay, think about it. Would the university have sent you a scholarship? Would you be at this university? Of course not. So, I think transparency is huge, as a leader of any program. You have to really, teach these young men, okay, this is, yes, about your education, but this is also business too, okay? Because if you're not getting the job done, all right, due to the fact that this is how I feed my family, all right, you're going to have to, in some cases, be replaced if you're not getting the job done.
That's facts. That's all facts for you. That's what people need to understand. I'm glad you made that statement. I asked this question, and a lot of times it's not always the wins and losses, and that's what you kind of said something about it a little bit earlier. What's the biggest accomplishment you've experienced since you become a college coach?
Are we referring to wins and losses, or we're not?
So I just say anything. It's an accomplishment.
Okay.
So like now some people come on and say, "Oh, going to the Final Four," and like some people like you're proud of your graduation rate. That could be your biggest accomplishment. Seeing those kids, it could have been anything. I just think people have different views. So like people they're definitely gonna have a different answer.
For me, I think it's 1A and 1B. Okay, 1A being that I made sure my plays graduated. All right. 1B, finally witnessing, okay, all your hard work, all right, that you put in, okay, finally achieving success when you turn the program around, okay, to be able to turn, North Carolina A&T around within, 3 years, like I set out to do, to me was a huge accomplishment, right? Not many coaches can say they did that. And at the same time, remove the program off of academic probation. I had to do two things simultaneously, and I definitely accomplished that.
I like that. I mean, that's great. 1A, 1B. I like that. I mean, basketball and the academic side, like you say, you accomplish some goals. That's pretty great stuff right there. Coach, what's your favorite word or phrase that you like to use?
When I'm happy or when I'm upset?
Either one. Hey,
because,
you're
listen,
right. There's two different ones.
The vocab definitely changes. I mean, depending on your mood. Okay, when I'm happy, probably, no doubt, good job. When I'm happy and when you're doing things well. When I'm upset, you gotta be such and such kidding me. Those two, hands down, are my faves.
I agree with the second one because I'm the butt of the jokes a lot of times in a group chat. When things don't go right, the first thing people say, they'll put in the message and they'll say, "You gotta be kidding me," and they say in LB voice because I'm using that one all the time. That's one of my favorites. You gotta be. So I feel you on that. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Stay humble. Okay. Stay, anchored to the ground. Don't get too, high when things are going well. Don't get too low when things are going bad. Try to keep, your mind, your outlook, check your ego at the door, but try to stay in the middle of the road, no matter what's going on in your life, right? Because if you get too full of yourself, when things come crumbling down, I mean, it's really hard to recover because people remember you when you were on top and how did you interact with people during that moment, so I would really tell everyone, I mean, just make sure you stay humble no matter what success that you have, right? Treat people as people.
Awesome. All right, I talked about it earlier, not a self-promoter. So, I mean, you can always tell like guys who are self-promoting in this business, it's like almost shameless now. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. And like and the good guys in this business tend to get left behind because they don't self-promote, So, but if you had to choose, then I'll give you a chance. I mean, like I said, people see you in a different light, but like if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
Oh man, I would definitely use funny. Okay. When I'm working, I'm, serious, so I would say, funny, driven, and don't show, his heart as much as he should, I mean, so I wouldn't use the word shy, coach, because I'm definitely not shy, but I do tend to stay away from really letting the entire world know that I do have a big heart. But the first two, you know, driven and funny, okay, are two that I feel is truly appropriate.
Good ones, man. Good, great answers. What person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
Oh man, I would have to say my parents, okay, for raising me the right way. Um, and then outside my parents would be my grandmother that helped raise me as well. Um, you know, the foundation that, you know, my parents and my grandparents laid ultimately made me the man that I am today. You know, in sports, you know, my mentor, I have two, well, three. Uh, Gary Charles being one. Okay, I played for him, AU basketball. You know, he's given me a ton of sound advice throughout my life. Jack Agostino, my high school coach out in Amityville. Um, had the pleasure to work with him for 1 year, and then, you know, he dissed me because he had to go back and be with his wife, and I totally get it. The wife said she wasn't moving to Greensboro, and, you know, she canceled Christmas on, you know, my high school coach, so he had to, you know, step down and go back home. And then Cy Alexander, my college coach, you know, for giving me um, an unbelievable opportunity getting into business back in '03.
Well, shout out Guy. You always got to shout out the Godfather Guy over there, man. When you mention his name, you got to shout him out.
And if you don't, he'll let you know about it.
He definitely gonna let you know. Talk about this, but what was the most stressful situation you think you faced in being a coach?
Oof, taking over at A&T, hands down. You know, if I didn't have so much self-confidence in my own ability, coach, you know, most people would have ran from that situation. We were on academic probation. Okay. Um, we had been losing 3 consecutive years. Okay. So a lot of losing. And when you haven't experienced it, right, the losing piece, right, in sports, you know, you always hear about stories of winning, winning, winning. Okay. But there are a lot more coaches that lose than win. Okay. If you want to be truthful about it, you know. So taking over at A&T was hands down the most stressful period of my life. Okay. But I knew with my faith in God that, you know, if I don't allow that to waver, you know, everything is going to, you know, turn out fine. And, you know, it did.
Good stuff, man. Well, listen, this is what I like to, and I ask this because I truly believe that this is going to happen again. I just think when you get another shot at being a head coach, because if you look at your resume and like you said, you won everywhere. You've been successful, no matter what the level is. Like when you get another shot being a head coach, are there any changes that you would make from the type of style of play, type of players? And I can't say because your last program isn't going to be like the new one, but type of style, type of play, what would you do that was different than before?
Well, I think number one, coach, the relationships need to be different. Okay. Because if you don't show someone your heart, they really don't know, okay, your intentions. You follow me? Um, so probably connecting a little more with my staff, um, still, you know, holding them accountable, but also hands down, allowing them to see who I truly am, you know, an individual with a big heart. Um, you know, no question, a closer relationship with the athletic director. You know, I was so focused on, you know, winning, winning, winning. And I guess somewhere down the line, we got disconnected because, you know, let's go through the timeline, coach. All right. First year, We go 3-29. Okay. Brutal season, right? Had it not been for, again, my faith in God and my success at Columbia State, I would have lost my everlasting mind, okay? Because no coach wakes up in the morning and thinks, realistically speaking, we're going to go 3-29. No one does it, okay? But it happened, okay? And what doesn't kill you definitely makes you strong. I truly believe in that. So we go 3-29, my first full season, brutal, all right? Meet with the athletic director. He says, Coach, we're going to do this again, but under no circumstances can this look anything like this 3-29 season. I shook his hand. I ran out of his office. I'm like, okay, good. I got another chance at it. And the following year, we go 20-15. Okay. The second best one-year turnaround in NCAA history. Okay. It's phenomenal. All right. And then year 3, we follow that up with a 19-13 campaign, okay, 13-3 in conference. So things are rolling. And my 4th full season, we're 3-10, and I abruptly get suspended, okay, out of nowhere. And I truly believe that everyone involved learned from the situation, including the athletic director, myself, and in sports, from time to time, I think egos gets involved. Okay, and when I say stay humble, I mean that's part of it. Okay, you gotta live what you preach. Okay, and remain humble. And I just think I wasn't as close with the athletic director as I needed to be, and he decided to make change mid-season. And I was floored because I didn't see that coming. Because I was taught, as long as you win games, okay, you're going to be good. Okay, that's the school that I was raised in. Okay, and I was winning games, coach. And for whatever reason, the athletic director decided to make a move on me. I'm not the first. I won't be the last. But moving forward, I will go out of my way to make sure that the athletic director and myself is always on the same page. I don't care how many games I'm winning, how many games I'm losing. That guy is going to be darn near my best friend.
I love that answer. I mean, which is smart move, because they do control a lot of things. And I ask this, I like to end with this question because it makes you reflect and think. Like, knowing what you know now, like, what would you tell your young or younger self to prepare for as a head coach?
Probably, first and foremost, how to interact with your staff, okay? Right. Once you hire them, okay, let me back up. You have to know who you're hiring. That's step one, okay? That's totally step one. I mean, because I'm big on loyalty, okay, I would probably say vet who you're going to hire, okay, because you have to interact with them. Now, everybody can say what they need to say to get the job, okay, but you got to do your extensive homework, okay? I'm guilty of not doing my extensive homework, all right? But you got to do extensive homework, talk to previous coaches, give me the good, give me the bad, okay? But just stay grounded and, interact with, your staff on a daily basis so they can truly get to know who you are as a person.
I mean, I love that. I mean, I'm listening to it, which, like you said, get to know your staff or knowing who you're hiring is huge in this business. Look, Coach Joyner, man, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Like, before we go, is there anything you want to say to the viewers before we go?
Well, Coach, once again, thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward, to my next opportunity. And, life goes on, man.
There you go. So I want you're welcome, man. I'm glad we got a chance to get together and for you to come on. I want to thank you, viewers, for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.